Hi, welcome to the second part of our Likutey Moharan short lessons. So we're learning here the Likutey Moharan chapter 5, B'chatzotzot Kol Shofar. And today we're going to go a little bit further in this beautiful chapter, which is both beautiful and confusing. Like I think most of the Rabbi Nachman's teaching for me, even as a scholar, and I know that also like Hasidic people also like we're all embarrassed when we learn Rabbi Nachman. We kind of like we love him, obviously, and we love his language. We understand most of the ideas, a lot of them, not most, a lot of the ideas, but still we're confused. But still, I think that this is the reason I do it. I do think that even if we learn like a difficult Torah or a difficult chapter, a difficult idea, I do want to say that we can find the beauty in Rabbi Nachman's imaginary world and the way it connects between ideas. So one of the things he's going to do in the second part of is Torah Hey, the fifth chapter of Likutey Moharan. You can search it as Sefaria and see it in front of you. One of the things he's going to do is to kind of finish his thought about simcha, about joy, and he's going to add another layer to it, or maybe to go deeper to a deeper and more fundamental level. This is how I see it, and this is the level of fear, awe, yirah, the fear of God. I have a great friend scholar, Lior Zak-Shmueli. She's just wrote some great things about it in the academic more sphere. But I do want to say that sometimes we tend to look at Breslov as the main idea is being in joy and being like close to God, even though people might feel far from God, or that I don't know, committed sins, and that this is why he can't be closer to God. But Breslov and maybe Hasidism in general come and say, come on, you still close to God. God still loves you. You can still, chol b'tshuva, or go to mikveh, etc. Here, I think we can see a different layer, a different voice, a different shade, and this is the fact that Rabbi Nachman is using irah and fear of God. I will use the Hebrew word irah because I think it contains more. For me, it holds more um, better. It holds better the idea of fear, that is not like you're not afraid of God, but you're both, amazed by the things he created. You're amazed by the gap, and this is I'm going to talk a lot about the gaps here in this short lesson. You're amazed by the gap between you as humankind, as final, and somebody who, as like you're lost in this giant world, even in your own, not even the giant world, you lost even in our life, right? The modern situation of the postmodern situation of our being is like being kind of lost. We lost like the big plan, right? And from the other hand, God, which is like infinite and holy. So the gap between those things creates kind of emotion that can be maybe negative, both positive, right? Can be also, you could be amazed by this gap. So, and of course, all religions play with this gap. I think they're all doing something with it, right? Even people who, I don't know, built giant Gothic churches, right? They use this gap in order to kind of like, I think maybe religion actually appears in this amazing gap. So it's very um, fruitful gap if you look at it. So I want to open just the English version. I hope I'll read it correctly. But you can see in we talked about the sections 1 to 4, but I do want us to talk about the thunder. Okay, suddenly in the middle of the Torah, Rabbi Nachman kind of switches he's talking about the shofar. He kind of like puts them aside, doesn't neglect them, but he wants to use a different image. And then he's going to use three different images that are all connected to, as I see it, all connected to water in all kinds of ways. And the first image he's going to use is the image of the thunder. And it's occurred to me only this year, when I'm not teaching from Israel and I'm now sitting in Boston in Harvard University. It just occurred to me a few weeks ago when we had this strange rainy day. It wasn't cold; it was just rainy and stormy, but there was a very big thunder, and we all felt the thunder very. We were like, me, my family, my kids, we were all amazed by the thunder. It caught us by surprise. And I think that Rabbi Nachman is imagining those days before Rosh Hashanah, the shofar. He has this association, this natural, almost, natural association, which he gets from nature, from the environment, from the time, from the fall of thunder. And he hears in the thunder not the thunder is so interesting, but the way we react to it, the feeling we have. As I think thunder makes all of us, for one bit, tiny moment, makes us a little bit like kids, right? It makes us small. It makes us fear, where did it came from? What is it exactly? And I think, of course, as adults, we're not afraid of thunder, but we get kids. We can understand. We get their idea of being afraid of thunder. So Rabbi Nachman is saying that shofar is actually in some levels supposed to give us this kind of like moment. And I think it's very far from the way we like traditionally hear shofar, because we used to it so much. Right? We're getting, I think, the surprise effect of thunder. This is what's supposed to be the shofar, which is quite interesting because we hear shofar in a very accurate and very strict moment. I think the only ones actually in shul that are surprised by the shofar are the kids, right? Even though parents tell them now it's going to be shofar, we have to hear 100 voices, be quiet. I'm not able to speak with you while I'm hearing the shofar, etc. I don't know what's your custom, if you do it or not, but this is how I do it. So kids are prepared, but even though they're prepared, I think we should wait and hear and maybe look for this feeling of what is it. The second point I want to tell here, I have another edition in the Hebrew version of this lesson. You can search for it, but we don't have a lot of time to express it here, so I'll switch to the second point. Rabbi Nachman is actually moving in this Torah to talk about the Ira'ah. He talks a little bit about the thing I don't want to go deeper inside. He also uses a kind of like image from the Talmud of the angel Gabriel putting kind of like a stick or a branch into the water of Yam HaChochmah inside the sea, which is like beautiful image, but it's like a riddle. What is it? But if you open the Talmud, you see that Gabriel is doing it as, I don't know if it's a protest, if it's something negative connected to King Solomon, marrying Egyptian wife, taking Egyptian wife. This is he was taking a lot of women. He was distracted for his gold from his Jewish kinship. I don't know how to exactly pronounce it. So the Talmud criticizes King Solomon and saying that when he married this Egyptian wife, Gabriel took a stick, took a branch, put it in the deep sea of wisdom, and afterwards, what happened is that Rome was growing from in this place, in the middle of the sea. And I think this is kind of like implying that for Rabbi Nachman, as he reads this Talmudic strange saying, is that you also have, when you deal with Yir'ah, you also deal with the negative world, the left, let's say, in brackets, the left side of the creation of God, of the Elohut. We're talking about a place in which the positive ways that it can be, you can create all kind of religious emotions towards God, towards the divine, understanding that you're final. But the negative side of it could create also negative things represented by Rome. Never mind, maybe you can criticize the image work of the Talmud, but this is how it's presented, and this is how Rabbi Nachman saw it. But then the beautiful thing is Rabbi Nachman moves to the third image of water, and he's interpreting a different Talmudic saying. We have a few pieces of very odd Talmudic appearance of this wise man, Rabbi Bar Chana, and Rabbi Bar Chana, yeah, he is the son of Chana. He is actually, he has those riddles that appear in the Talmud. You can see it in the Torah. You can see it inside. Let's see it's right in the end of this Torah. I can't find it yet, but I'll find it soon. Rabbi Bar Chana, it's on the sixth part of the Torah. זימנה חדה אהבה אז לינון בספינתה, וסגי ספינתה בין שיצה לשיצה דחברה, תלת היומה ותלת הלילותה, יהיו בזקיפו ואנן בשיפולה, וחיתמה, לא מסגי ספינתה טובה, כי עתה רב דימי אמר, כמחם קומקום אדמיה, מסגי שתין פרסי, ושדה פרשה גירה, וקדמה לאיהי. ואמר רבשי, אהו גילדנה דיאמה הווה דאיתלה תרי שיצה. This is a very odd story. You can look for the translation. Rabbi Bar Chana recounted one time we were traveling on a ship to sail between fish's two fins. You say fins? The snapirim. Took the ship 3 days and 3 nights, even though it was swimming upwind and we were sailing downwind. And lest you think the ship was not sailing quickly, when Rav Dimi came, he said, in the time it takes to heat a kettle of water, it went 60 parsa. It was like a measuring size. And a rider shot an arrow, yet the ship preceded it. Ravashi said the fish was a gitana, was a kind of fish that has 2 fins, not 1. Okay. The strange story tells the point of view of Rabbi Bar Chana. He was traveling on water. He was sitting in the middle of his ship. What I want to suggest is that this whole story is telling us something about proportion. They're talking about proportion and about the illusion of the eye. Because when he says the ship is sailing between those 2 shitza, those 2, I'm looking for the flippers, right? For the 2 flippers of the fish, the ship is sailing through 3 days, but it's actually this not so big. We're not imagining a giant fish, right? It's not a fish who's in the entire sea, right? It doesn't take 3 days to go from one side of the fish to the second side. But I think what he says is that from the point of view of a fish that is far from the sea, the ship goes like a certain distance. But for the people in the ship, it takes 3 days. And you can see the same thing with distance, with the proportion of the eye, of the vision. You can see it also from the point of view from the ship to the sea. Because if you shoot an arrow from one side, from someone shoots an arrow on the shore, so people on the ship are arriving to the point where the arrow stops before it, which is, of course, it doesn't make sense, right? Because time is like it takes like 1 minute, 1 second, I'm sorry, to the arrow to be shot. But the ship already gone this distance because she's very far. It's like I showed it in the Hebrew lesson. It's like one of I kind of hated it, but I went to a art lesson which we had to paint with, the method of proportion on the pencil. You have to like understand what's the proportion of things that are far, and you don't want to be caught to the illusion of the vision and the eye, so you like use them all kinds of tricks to measure it. But I do think that the fact that we have those three pictures, the arrow on the shore, the ship, and אני כל פעם מאבדת את המילה סנפירים. Wait a second, I have to look up for this word because I always lose it. But the flippers, okay. And the fact you have this giant fish flippers, which is not a fish, of course, for me is a whale, okay? I just saw 3 weeks ago, first time in my life, whales, a Leviathan, and I was amazed by the size of it, okay? I wasn't prepared for it. I know that I was traveling for like 4 hours in the sea. I know because my kid has seasick. I know that I was prepared to see the big fish. I paid for it, okay? But when I saw this giant whale, it was so big that I was overwhelmed. I think this was my shofar before Rosh Hashanah this year. And when I was looking for the first Torah I want to teach, I felt the urge to teach this strange story of Rabbi Bar Chana inside Rabbi Nachman's chapter about joy and fear of God, because I feel that there is, of course, the balance between fear and joy is super important, especially in Breslov. I think we don't talk about it enough, about the fact that there is like a deeper, or more fundamental level of irah and fear that exists in Breslov thought. But the second thing I want to mention is that something about proportions and joy. If we talk about irah and fear of God as a kind of like riddle and the discomfort we have because of the gap between us and the divine. So I'm thinking about the joy as a way of, if you go back to what we said about Moses, al ze hadavar, the way that through joy you get connected to God wherever He is, and by doing the mitzvot, this is what we talk about last lesson. By doing the mitzvot, you connect to, you synchronize with God, like He's really happy, as exactly like you're happy, like you're happy when you're doing the commandments, the mitzvot. So it's not something I'm saying. This is how I understand. You can write in comments what your understanding is, but this is how I understand the first part of Rabbi Nachman. So he's looking for this moments in which, through joy, I think in joy you kind of like, you lose, you don't really know what are the proportions. You're like in the moment. Let's say when you're eating a meal and you're enjoying it, okay, you're not thinking about the thousands and millions of other meals you could have eaten and it will be better, okay? Or when you go outside your house and you, take care of your pets, right? You don't think about all the animal in the world that need to be helped and how you're useless. You can't do nothing. And you're just dust in the wind, and the world is so big, and we're just a part of a lot of galaxies. You can't really hold this kind of thought. And the joy, I think that what I'm learning from this Torah, because through the lens of Rabbi Nachman and the whale I personally saw, is that joy is not only an emotion, it's a kind of a state of mind that connects to specifically. to the fact that we can do things that are specific, a specific moment, a specific person, specific blessing, specific time. And I think for us in the media world, where we're exposed to everything, when all the options are open, it seems like it's more difficult for us, I think, to look and to find those moments of synchron, and of when we synchronize, we're in the same spot as where we stand, where we should be, okay, where we're exactly on the moment we have to be, we're exactly with the relatives we have to live with, we're exactly with the achievements we have to achieve, and exactly everything is like in the space and in this right moment, time, space, and it's not something that you always have to look up and look and be better. Okay, so I'm not against self-improvement, of course. I'm just thinking about the situation of joy as opposed to the gap we have when we talk about ir'ah, about the fear, or the big feeling, the thunder, these kind of moments. And I think Rabbi Nachman kind of implies to it when he says that we have to combine the ir'ah with עם השמחה, עם האהבה, אוקיי? היינו הגבורות, בחינת רעמים, צריך לשתף עמהם אהבה, כדי שיפגעו בכבוד, בחינת חוכמה, שיתאבד מהם רעמים ותתגבר על אויביך, כמו שכתוב, שב לימיני וכולי. So Rabbi Nachman's goal in the end, his end goal, as I see it, is not to stay in the ir'ah, in the fear, but kind of like jump from it, or build the second layer, or kind of combine the left side that symbolizes fear to the chesed, to the love, to the kindness, to the joy, but not through erasing it, but still like having this voice once a year of the shofar, of the thunder. And I think this is how we actually live this life. This is what we know about him. Maybe we'll talk about it later in different lessons, because I do want to keep it short. Hopefully you stay with me in the last in other lessons, and I will kind of hoping to improve my teaching skills. So hopefully it will happen at some point. Thank you so much, and Shana Tova.